Slime me out. Come on. Get mine out, yeah?
Sup team, 𝓵𝓪𝓬𝓪 back again, and this time to talk about live baiting. Something that we still do every now and then, and a technique that's really effective off the rocks. What I'll go through is very basic, why live baiting is so effective and why you should do it, what type of rod and reel you can use, what type of line and the setup of line you can use for live baiting, some of the essentials you'll need for live baiting off the rocks, and how to catch liveys and keep them alive, which is probably the most difficult part of this whole thing.
Strike!
Okay guys, why would you live bait? Now most people would associate live baiting off the rocks with LBG or land-based game fishing, where those guys chase massive tuna and massive marlin, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just, you know, for kings or bonito or even salmon, but predominantly it's to target bigger fish. All right, when you think about it, what do big fish eat? They eat smaller fish. So what we're doing is we're mimicking that, right? We're using that to our advantage. We catch small fish, put a hook on it, send it out, and hoping a pelagic or a big fish comes past. And 90% of the times they can't resist it, because when they see that live bait or that little fish flickering around, or it's struggling because there's a hook on its back, then they can't resist it, and they normally would take it. I'm not 100% proof, obviously, not 100% all the time, but there's a high likely chance they would. The other thing is, if you're not feeling like casting all day, it's probably another option, but it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be. You know, trying to catch the live bait is probably a lot harder than casting lures all day. The type of rod and reel, you've got two main options anyway, and that's a spinning reel or a overhead reel, right? I'll start with the spinning reel. Really basic. Everyone, if you fish, you most likely got a spinning reel, so easier access to this setup. We would recommend 8,000 and above in terms of size. Anything smaller, you could do it, but you'll need to go lighter line if you're trying to target bigger tuna or Spanish mackerel, right? You could probably get away if you're trying to catch kings, but you want the grunt. So the bigger reels will allow you to have that bigger drag, the heavier line, but also more line if you need to target the tuna and Spanish mackerel. The other benefit of a spinning reel is that you can use it if you can't get liveys to cast lures, right? Whether it's metals or stick baits or whatever. The rod, we would recommend getting a heavier rod, but anything 8 foot and above would be ideal, because when you're fighting the fish and it's getting close to shore, close to the rocks, you want enough length in the rod to be able to fight the fish. So the main benefit of it, again, is the versatility of the spinning reel, being able to use lures if you can't get live bait. The other option is your overhead reel. The main benefit of it is more line capacity. Look, I don't know in terms of sizes. I'm not really familiar with the size. I think it's different in all different brands. This one is the Shimano Speedmaster 2, size 16. Most people use mono for overheads because it's more abrasive resistant. So if you go spinning, usually people use braid, but mono, you know, it can rub on the rock. You're pretty much okay when that happens. The other benefit of it is there's more grunt, there's more, you're able to put on more drag on it, and the rod makes a big difference too. So this rod here is a Shimano backbone 8 foot rod. It's pretty long. It was designed for LBG, for land-based game fishing. But the rod has no mercy, man. There's a lot of grunt, a lot of power, but your back is going to feel it when you're fighting that big fish. But nice. This is a nice setup. It's probably a lighter one compared to what some of those LBG guys use. But you can't hold this all day. So just think about it. This one here will be sitting down waiting for the big fish to take the live bait. But you're not going to hold this all day. It's going to be pretty tiring. In terms of line, I mean, for me, it's braid or mono. I know there's other options, but we'll just stick to those two at the moment. For the spinning, normally you would use braid, but you can also use mono. Most people use braid. We would have at least 3 to 4 meter leader for it. But one of the disadvantages is with braid, especially if you're live baiting and you're putting your setup onto a rod holder, is the braid could rub on the rock or hit a barnacle and it could get damaged, and that kind of risks losing the fish when you're fighting it. But you get more line capacity out of it, right? Because it's thinner in diameter in comparison to mono. With mono, like I said earlier, the benefit of it is it's more abrasive resistant. So, you know, you can rub on the rock, it should be okay. Also, there's more stretch on the mono. So when you're fighting the fish, you don't have that risk of breaking because there's no stretch where braid has that sort of, you know, has that issue. Some people, what they do is they'll do a top shot setup. So top shot meaning you would have braid on the bottom of the spool. You get, let's say, 200 or 300 meters of braid, and then on top you top it up with mono. So you get the benefit of more line with the braid, but then you get the abrasive resistance of the mono. But the only problem is if you get your livey out too far, then you're going to be using your braid closer to the rocks. So you just got to be mindful of that. But that's a popular option amongst the live baiting guys. Okay, with essentials, there's a couple of things we've got to talk through here. The first thing is rod holders. If you have a spinning reel, even an overhead, some of the rock fishing spots have holes or places, like sometimes people put in PVC pipes and cement it onto the rocks where you can put your rod onto there. Just be mindful when you do that to always have your drag on really light. Like, you don't want it to be tight enough where if the fish takes the live bait and it hits it hard enough, it'll take your rod and reel with it, and it happens quite a bit. So just be mindful of that. The other disadvantage of putting on the rock, you know, on those holes, which I do quite often, it damages the butt of your rod. The other option is getting yourself one of these rod holders. This is available at our website, teamkingies.com.au. Just a bit of plug in there. Just find a crack or find a hole where you can slip and put that through. It can be a really small hole as opposed to finding a bigger hole for your rod. Just get a smaller hole, put in your rod. You can use this for both the spinning and the overhead. Again, like I said, be mindful, even with the rod holders, you need to make sure your drag is on loose. You can't have tight drag. Otherwise, you're going to lose your rod and reel, or you could actually snap your rod if the fish takes the live bait hard enough. The last option is one of these things. They call it LBG Buddy Hook'em, which is an Australian brand. They create these. I know there's other brands. I'm not sure what they're called. So you basically slot it in. You have this. Sorry, before we do that, you got this this part here where it goes on the rod. Now the spinning can do this. Spinning reels, the spinning setup, but you got to put it upside down. I'm not going to go through that in detail. One of our mates, Ilham, does that. But it's predominantly used for overhead reels and rods. So that's set up on your rod, slide it in, and then you put this leg part of it on there. Now, with this setup, when you put it on the rock, on the ledge, just make sure there's something in front of it, or you put it into a crack or something where it holds the legs. So when the fish takes it, it doesn't pull your whole setup in. But the other thing is you got to keep your drag loose, like I said earlier. And this is a really great option, and what a lot of the LBG guys do. They also create their own ones. It's basically a copy of a sniper setup. You know those guns that you see on these movies? I think that's where they got their ID from. Looks pretty cool actually. In terms of hooks, we have two options. We use the live bait hooks. This one here is the mustard hoodlum. Anything 7.0 and above. Benefit of these hooks, they're thicker gauge, so they're a lot stronger. It keeps the live bait on the hook, so it's great for your yellowtails, slimy mackerel that are a bit more a bit more thicker. You can't use these on the smaller live bait like garfish. They'll die too quick because of the thick gauge. Now for the more sensitive or the smaller live bait, we would use circle hooks. And these circle hooks, thinner gauge. Benefit of these is when you have your setup and your live bait out on the rock, and the fish, the big fish takes it, it'll run with it. It'll set itself up, and then as soon as you strike it and you don't strike. Sorry, circle hooks, you don't strike. Just remember, don't strike, please. As soon as you slightly start turning the drag and tightening the drag, it'll set on the side of the fish's mouth. I'm not going to do it to my face. It'll set on the side of the fish's mouth, and then it's less likely to fall off. These things, once it's set, they don't come off that fish. Not all the time, but a high likely chance it will still be on there. So the other thing you've got to be mindful of is whether you're going to choose a floaty or a balloon setup. Right? A lot of people use balloons. We use a slider, or I use a slider, and then the balloon attaches to the slider. The benefit of the balloon, it'll take out your live bait if the wind is in your favor. So if the wind is going out, normally a westerly wind, it's coming from the west out to the ocean, it'll help you take that fish out. Only problem is if the wind is going the wrong way. So when that happens, we use a floaty. But in actual fact, we prefer using the floaty. It's just easier to cast out, especially if you're using spinning setup. But also the fish is less drag for the fish, right? Especially these 𝓤𝓷𝓳𝓸𝓂 type of floaties. Whereas the balloon, if the fish is trying to swim another way, it kind of fights against the balloon, and they die a lot quicker at times. And the last thing is just how we set it all up and how we put it all together. You know, you've got your leader. We normally have a stopper. We've got one of these stoppers here. Doesn't matter what stopper you use. I've got this material one that I get from ISO Fishing. And you just slide in your floaty. This floaty here is also from ISO Fishing. Very popular. Slide it through. It'll stop at the stopper there. It won't go any further. And then we'll put on a hook. So now with the live bait hook or a J hook, nice and easy. You just do a uni knot onto that, no problems. With the circle hook, with the octopus circle hook, we use the 𝓤𝓷𝓳𝓸𝓂 circle hook. You have to do a snell on that, right? So I'm not going to show you how to do that. You can figure it out, or there's a lot of other videos. That's it. Nice and easy, man. Stopper, floaty, hook, boom. You're ready to go. With catching liveys, first thing is to have the hooks and the setup. I use the Hayabusa sabikis, size 8. I wouldn't get any smaller than size 8 because, like, the smaller ones, some of these live baits get pretty big and you get busted off, or it rolls on the rock and it gets damaged pretty quick. So size 8 is good for off the rocks. Get a floaty, one of these floaties. These floaties here is the ones that you can sort of attach onto the line on the top. Nice and easy. You can use ones that doesn't have that attachment and slide it through, but you got to have a stopper for that. And then you have a small pair sinker on the bottom. So pair sinker on the bottom, you've got your sabiki, and you got your floaty at the top. Simple as that. Now what will get them to take that setup from you is burley. You need burley. Doesn't matter what you do. We use stale bread or dried stale bread with some of the prawn, what do they call it? Prawn powder. It's a bait powder. We mix it all up, and there's quite a few of our videos that show that. And you just burley up around the bait jig, and then the live bait will take it. Now, to keep it alive is another thing, right? And this is where it can get difficult because you've got to carry a lot of stuff. So first thing you need is a live bait pool. We sell these on our website, but wherever you can find, there's a lot of different options. Ours is slightly smaller than all the other ones you find. That's why it's easier to carry around because it's lighter. Get yourself a bucket. Doesn't matter what bucket. We get these ones. These ones last quite a bit. So you can fill up the pool and get yourself an aerator, a good aerator to just keep the fish alive because they need that oxygen. Even with the aerator, if you just leave it all day, the fish will most likely die, the live bait. You know, you need to change the water every now and then to just keep that water fresh. Because if it's in the sun, it gets a bit warm, and the water, for some reason, water gets warm and the fish just can't last that long. The last thing is with live bait, don't catch too many and put it in the pool. So limit yourself. Like, let's say get 10 and that's it. Don't put as many live bait in there as possible because they'll die a lot quicker. And once they start dying, it pollutes the water. It's just headaches. Just get enough for you to last for the whole day, but don't fill it up with too many liveys. That's probably a big mistake that we used to do because we just catch as much as we can. So just catch whatever you need, and then they'll stay alive a lot longer. So in summary, with live baiting, a very effective method. We've caught many fish. There's a video of me recently, earlier in the year, catching a Spanish mackerel on the live bait. So that was one example of what you can catch off the rocks.
Get the gun, boys! Hey, get your line in, get your line in.
Belly, lift it up.
Yeah, lift it up. Left side.
Lift up from the head. Yeah, left hand, little higher.
So live baiting can be great, and it's a very effective method of fishing. The only catch is you got to carry a lot more, so it's a lot heavier. And you know, if you have to walk a far distance to the ledge, or it's a bit of a hike up or down, you're gonna feel it, right? I'm telling you, I feel it a lot every time I do live baiting. It can take a bit of time to learn how to do it, especially catching the live bait. It's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. You know, I've kind of become the designated live bait guy because I can catch quite a bit of them. Kind of figured it out, and a few of the boys have also. But it takes a lot of time to figure it out and figure out technique, or even the spots, how to catch the live bait or where to catch the live bait in the particular area. It takes time and it takes a lot of practice. So you're not going to get it straight away. But burling and making sure you got the right gear and the right sabiki and the right setup will take you a long way. The other challenge is, I said earlier, is keeping the live bait alive. That's a massive challenge, especially if you can only catch them early in the morning and the rest of the day they're gone. You got to find a way to be able to keep them alive and keep them fresh. The other issue is it can get boring, you know, sending out live bait and sitting there and just waiting for that big fish to take it, and at times they don't. So just be mindful, it can get boring, but when it pays off big. So overall, live baiting is a great option. So, you know, if you're a lure guy, give it a go, give it a try. It's not as glamorous, and it's not, and the strike and the hit is not as exhilarating as a lure, but it's very effective. And many people and many of the guys that catch huge fish, record fish off the rocks, use live bait as their option. So guys, give it a try. Hopefully this will help you guys out if you're starting. If you're already doing it, hopefully you've got some tips off me just then. But guys, good luck with the bigger fish season just around the corner. Live baiting is a great option for you all.